The Galactic Panic. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a vast amphitheater hewn from a single massive crystal, pulsed with an almost palpable tension. Hundreds of alien species, each more bizarre than the last, filled the tiered seating. Tentacles writhed, antennae twitched, and bioluminescent patches flashed in agitation as news of the latest catastrophe spread through the assembled delegates. High Counselor Zixnath, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate hover orb, crackled with barely contained fury as it addressed the chamber. Esteemed colleagues, I call this emergency session to order. The situation has become dire beyond measure. The Void Swarm has claimed its third inhabited system in a mere 7 rotations. A collective gasp rippled through the assembly, followed by a cacophony of alien voices raised in alarm and accusation. The Praxian defense grid was supposed to be impenetrable, bellowed Grokner the Mighty, his 4 muscular arms slamming down on his console. Our simulation showed a 99.98% chance of success, squeaked Representative Pipsqueak of the hyper-intelligent rodent collective from Sigma 9. Perhaps if the Praxians hadn't been so stingy with their funding, began Ambassador Credulon, his eye stalks swiveling accusatorially. Silence. Zixnath's energy form flared, momentarily blinding half the chamber. As vision returned, the High Counselor continued, "This bickering serves no purpose. We must formulate a new strategy immediately, or the swarm will consume us all." The doors to the chamber burst open, admitting a gust of recycled air and the pungent aroma of fried food. All eyes, including a few on stalks and tentacles, turned to the latecomers sauntering down the central aisle. The human delegation had arrived. Admiral Sarah Chen led the small group, a half-eaten burrito in one hand and a datapad in the other. Her crisp blue uniform was impeccable, save for a small smear of guacamole on the collar. Behind her trailed Dr. Amit Patel, absent-mindedly munching on a bag of cheese puffs, his fingers leaving orange prints on his tablet. Rounding out the trio was Major Jamal Jackson, sipping noisily from an overlarge cup of soda. The council chamber fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the sound of Major Jackson's straw scraping the bottom of his cup. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form flickered in what might have been the equivalent of an eye twitch. "Representatives of Earth, how kind of you to join us. I trust you're aware of the gravity of our situation." Admiral Chen nodded, swallowing her mouthful of burrito. "Oh, absolutely. Void swarms eating planets like they're going out of style. Real bummer." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. The casualness of the human response bordered on insulting to many of the gathered species. "A bummer," hissed Ambassador Sylthia of the Ophidian Concordat. "Entire civilizations are being devoured, and you call it a bummer?" Chen shrugged, taking another bite of her burrito. "Well, yeah, it's not great. But hey, we got some ideas." Before Sylthia could respond, a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It showed the Void Swarm's path of destruction, a ravenous, ever-expanding blob of darkness consuming star systems like a cosmic Pac-Man. "As you can see," Zixnath intoned gravely, "the swarm has already consumed the Praxian, Zeta Reticuli, and Betelgeusian systems. Our projections indicate that within 50 rotations, it will reach the core worlds of the Galactic Alliance." Dr. Patel peered at the display, absently crunching on his cheese puffs. "Huh. Neat fractal pattern they got going there. Almost like a Mandelbrot set, but with more tentacles and doom." The chamber erupted once more, voices raised in a cacophony of alien languages. "We must evacuate the core worlds immediately." "Impossible. There aren't enough ships in the galaxy." "Perhaps if we offer a sacrifice." "I volunteer the humans." Admiral Chen cleared her throat loudly, the sound cutting through the din. All eyes turned to her once more. Folks, let's not lose our heads here, or whatever appendages you use for thinking. We've faced tough spots before, and we've always come out on top. And what, pray tell, rumbled Gruckner the Mighty. "Would you suggest? Your species has been part of this council for barely a galactic standard year. What could you possibly offer that our combined millennia of experience cannot?" Chen grinned, a spark of mischief in her eyes. "Well, for starters, how about a little game?" The silence that followed was so profound that even the ever-present hum of the chamber's life support systems seemed to pause in disbelief. "A game?" Zixnath's energy form pulsed incredulously. "Admiral Chen, perhaps your universal translator is malfunctioning. We are facing the annihilation of all sentient life in the galaxy, and you propose to play a game." Major Jackson stepped forward, still slurping the last drops of his soda. "Not just any game, your energiness. We're talking about the mother of all games, a cosmic game of capture the flag." The chamber exploded into chaos once more. Delegates shouted, screeched, and emitted pheromones of outrage. A few of the more volatile species began to glow ominously, prompting nearby security drones to move into position. Admiral Chen held up her hands, still clutching her half-eaten burrito. "Whoa, whoa! Hear us out, will you? Dr. Patel, why don't you explain the science behind this?" Dr. Patel stepped forward, brushing cheese dust off his hands. He tapped at his tablet, and a new hologram sprang to life. A dizzying array of equations, diagrams, and what appeared to be crude stick figure drawings. "It's quite simple, really," Patel began, his voice taking on a professorial tone. "The Void Swarm operates on a hive mind principle, correct? But it's not just any hive mind. It's an adaptive, learning swarm intelligence. Every time we've thrown a new defense at it, it's adapted and overcome. But what if?" He paused for dramatic effect, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "What if we could use that adaptability against it? What if we could present it with a problem so bizarre, so counterintuitive, that it ties itself in logical knots trying to solve it?" A tentative tendril raised from the cephalopodian delegation. "And how does this relate to your game?" Chen stepped in. "Think about it. The swarm expects us to defend, to fortify, to run and hide. But what if, instead, we scattered prizes across the galaxy? Irresistible bait, each piece protected in a unique and increasingly absurd way. We turn the hunter into the hunted, make them chase our flags instead of our planets." The chamber had grown quiet, a mix of confusion, and the first flickering sparks of interest passing between the delegates. "It's madness," whispered Ambassador Credulon, all three of his hearts palpitating wildly. "Precisely," exclaimed Major Jackson, crushing his empty cup with enthusiasm. "That's the beauty of it. The swarm has never encountered madness on a galactic scale before. How can it adapt to something that doesn't make sense?" High Counselor Zixnath's energy form swirled contemplatively. "And you believe this chaotic approach will succeed where all our careful planning and advanced technology has failed?" Admiral Chen nodded, polishing off the last of her burrito. "We humans have a saying, crazy enough to work. Sometimes, when you're backed into a corner, the only way out is to do something so unexpected that it catches everyone off guard, even yourself." A low murmur began to build in the chamber. It wasn't quite approval, but it wasn't outright rejection either. It was the sound of a galactic governing body collectively thinking, "What do we have to lose?" As the murmurs grew, a small, spindly alien in the back of the chamber raised an appendage. The motion caught Chen's eye. "Yes, you have a question," she asked. The alien, a member of the reclusive Quantian species known for their mastery of probability, spoke in a voice like wind chiming through crystal. "We have calculated the odds of your proposal succeeding. They are not insignificant." The chamber fell silent once more, all attention on the Quantian. "What are the odds?" Zixnath demanded. The Quantian's multifaceted eyes glittered. "Approximately 1 in 14,605," For a moment, no one spoke. Then Admiral Chen's laughter rang out, bright and confident. "Ha, I've beaten worse odds before breakfast. So, what do you say, Council? Are you ready to play a game that'll save the galaxy? As the council members looked at each other uncertainly, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The void swarm loomed ever closer, but for the first time since its appearance, a spark of hope had ignited in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Whether that spark would fan into a flame of salvation or sputter out in spectacular failure remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the game was about to begin, and the rules would never be the same again. Earth's absurd proposition. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp, scanning the alien faces surrounding her. Dr. Amit Patel fumbled with his holoprojector, muttering something about outdated alien tech, while Major Jamal Jackson stood at parade rest, his expression unreadable. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form pulsed impatiently. Admiral Chen, you have the floor. Present your game plan. The disdain in the High Counselor's tone was palpable. Chen nodded, a mischievous glint in her eye. Thank you, High Counselor. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, what I'm about to propose may seem, well, completely bonkers. But hear me out. She gestured to Dr. Patel, who finally got the holoprojector working. The three-dimensional map of the galaxy sprang to life, dotted with pulsing red markers indicating void swarm activity. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations, Chen began, pacing around the hologram. We're not just going to play capture the flag. We're going to turn the entire galaxy into the most elaborate, mind-bending game of capture the flag ever conceived. A ripple of confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Ambassador Silthia's forked tongue flicked out in agitation. Explain yourself, human. How does this juvenile pastime save us from annihilation? Chen's grin widened. Simple. We're going to give the Void Swarm a galactic-scale identity crisis. With a flourish, she produced a small object from her pocket, a red flag on a tiny pole. Imagine this flag represents something irresistible to the swarm. Maybe it's a source of immense energy, or the key to faster-than-light travel, whatever gets their tentacles twitching. She planted the flag on one of the star systems in the hologram. Now we scatter thousands, no, millions, of these flags across the galaxy, each one protected by a unique and increasingly absurd set of defenses. Dr. Patel stepped forward, pushing his glasses up his nose. The key is variability and unpredictability. One flag might be guarded by an armada of ships made entirely of bubble wrap. Another could be hidden in a gas giant's atmosphere, protected by a swarm of robotic space whales that communicate exclusively through interpretive dance. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Preposterous. Have the humans lost their minds? What in the name of the cosmic egg is interpretive dance? Major Jackson cleared his throat, his deep voice cutting through the din. The point is to confuse the hell out of the swarm. Every time they encounter a new flag, they'll have to adapt to a completely different set of rules. It's like trying to play chess. Go and three-dimensional twister simultaneously, while juggling flaming swords. Chen nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. We overload their adaptive algorithms with so much random data that they can't process it all. They'll be so busy trying to figure out our strategy that they'll forget to consume planets. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form flickered skeptically. And you believe this? Chaos will be more effective than our most advanced weapons and shields. With all due respect, High Counselor, Chen replied, your advanced weapons and shields haven't exactly been doing the job, have they? The swarm adapts to everything you throw at it. But how can it adapt to something that's constantly changing, something that doesn't follow any logical pattern? From the back of the chamber, a gravelly voice spoke up. The human has a point. All eyes turned to see Gridlock the Unmoving, representative of the silicon-based Petrosi, creaking as he leaned forward. Our rigid strategies have failed. Perhaps flexibility is required. Ambassador Credulon's eye stalks swiveled wildly. Flexibility is one thing, but this is madness. Madness. Chen's eyes gleamed. This is humanity. She paused, looking slightly embarrassed. Sorry, couldn't resist. But seriously, folks, sometimes madness is exactly what you need. Dr. Patel tapped at his tablet, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed a simulation of the Void Swarm encountering one of the proposed flags. In this case, a small moon that appeared to be made entirely of cheese. As you can see, Patel explained, the swarm's initial response is to consume the moon. But watch what happens when they realize it's actually a giant fondue pot in disguise. The simulated swarm recoiled in confusion, its tendrils tangling as it tried to process the unexpected development. Now imagine this happening simultaneously at millions of points across the galaxy, Chen added. The swarm will be pulled in countless directions, each new encounter forcing it to reevaluate its entire strategy. A contemplative hush fell over the chamber. Even the most skeptical council members couldn't deny the novelty of the approach. Grucknar the Mighty stroked his quadruple chins thoughtfully. It is an intriguing proposition, but the resources required to implement such a plan would be astronomical. Chen nodded. True, but consider the alternative. If we do nothing, there won't be any resources left to protect. We're proposing to weaponize creativity itself. From the cephalopodian delegation, a forest of tentacles rose. And who would design these absurd defenses? Surely not your small human team alone. Excellent question. Chen beamed. That's where all of you come in. We're not just proposing a strategy. We're proposing the galaxy's biggest brainstorming session. Every species, every culture contributing its own unique brand of weirdness to the mix. The chamber buzzed with excited whispers. The idea of contributing to the plan, no matter how strange, was beginning to appeal to many of the delegates. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form swirled contemplatively. And you truly believe this? Collective absurdity will be enough to stop the Void Swarm. Chen's expression turned serious. High Counselor, esteemed delegates, I can't stand here and guarantee success. But I can promise you this. If we go down, we'll go down fighting in the most spectacular, unforgettable way possible. And who knows, we might just save the galaxy in the process. A moment of silence fell over the chamber as the council members digested the audacious proposal. Finally, a small chitinous being scuttled forward, the representative of the Hive Mind Collective, a species that had thus far remained silent throughout the proceedings. We approve, it chittered, its compound eyes gleaming. The beauty of chaos, the harmony of discord, it sings to us. One by one, other delegates began to nod, some reluctantly, others with growing enthusiasm. Grucknar the Mighty stood, his massive form towering over the others. I, too, cast my vote in favor. If we are to face oblivion, let it be with a warrior's laugh in the face of death. A wave of agreement swept through the chamber. Even Ambassador Credulon's eye stalks had stopped their frantic swiveling, a look of resigned acceptance settling over them. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form pulsed brightly. Very well. By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Council, I hereby authorize Project Cosmic Cacophony. Chen supplied with a grin. Project Cosmic Cacophony, Zixnath finished, a hint of amusement in its ethereal voice. May the stars have mercy on us all. As the council chamber erupted into a flurry of excited discussion and frantic planning, Admiral Chen turned to her team. Well, folks, she said, her eyes twinkling with a mixture of determination and mischief, it looks like the game is afoot. Let's go save the galaxy, one ridiculous flag at a time. Dr. Patel nodded, already scribbling equations and doodles on his tablet. Major Jackson cracked his knuckles, a rare smile breaking through his stoic facade. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the shoulders of humanity's penchant for thinking outside the box. Way outside the box. As the Council raced to implement the most outrageous defense strategy ever conceived, one thing was certain: Win or lose, the Void Swarm was in for one hell of a surprise. Chaos unleashed. The Galactic Council's decision to implement Project Cosmic Cacophony set off a chain reaction of creativity and chaos that rippled across the stars. Within days, every sentient species in the galaxy was brainstorming, inventing, and deploying the most outlandish defenses imaginable. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Absurdity, watching the holographic display of the galaxy with a mixture of pride and trepidation. Countless pinpricks of light represented the flags now scattered across space, each a potential lure for the Void Swarm. "Status report, Dr. Patel," Chen called out, her eyes never leaving the display. Dr. Amit Patel looked up from his console, his hair wild and eyes bloodshot from days of non-stop work. It's beautiful, Admiral. The galaxy has never seen anything like this. We got reports coming in from every sector." Major Jamal Jackson, standing at attention nearby, raised an eyebrow. "Give us the highlights, Doc." Patel's fingers flew over his holographic keyboard. "Well, the Cephalopodians have deployed their Kraken Nebula. It's a massive cloud of bioluminescent space squid that rearrange themselves into impossibly complex 3D puzzles. Any swarm tendrils that enter have to solve the puzzle or get squirted with psychedelic ink." Chen chuckled. "Creative. What else?" "The Silicon Collective has transformed an entire asteroid belt into a giant game of space pinball," Patel continued. "The swarm has to navigate through it without setting off the bumpers, which are actually quantum-entangled particle accelerators." Jackson whistled low. "Now that's what I call a high-stakes game." Patel's eyes lit up with excitement. "Oh, and you're going to love this one. Remember the Hive Mind Collective? They've created what they're calling the Mobius Strip Mall of Madness. It's a space station shaped like a Mobius strip, where the laws of physics change every 100 meters. One section might have reverse gravity, another might experience time backwards." Chen leaned in, intrigued. "And the flag? Hidden in a food court that only exists on Tuesdays," Patel replied with a grin. The Admiral shook her head in amazement. "I'll be damned. They really took to this idea, didn't they?" Before Patel could respond, a priority alert flashed across the main screen. The jovial atmosphere on the bridge instantly evaporated. "Report," Chen barked. A young ensign's voice quavered as she responded. "Admiral, we're detecting Void Swarm activity in the Orion Arm. They've encountered their first flag." The entire bridge crew held their breath as the main screen shifted to show a live feed from the Orion sector. A mass of writhing darkness, shot through with veins of sickly purple light, filled one half of the screen. Opposite it floated what appeared to be. "Is that a giant space piñata?" Jackson asked incredulously. Patel consulted his data. "Affirmative. Designed by a coalition of Earth's party supply companies and the Festivi, a species that communicates entirely through celebratory rituals." The Void Swarm's tendrils reached out tentatively towards the colorful, burrow-shaped construct. As soon as they made contact, the piñata burst open, releasing a cloud of glitter, confetti, and miniature robotic party favors, all programmed to play La Cucaracha at maximum volume. The effect on the swarm was immediate and bizarre. Its tendrils recoiled, then began to twist and turn in erratic patterns, as if trying to dance along with the music. Sections of the swarm changed color rapidly, flashing through the rainbow in sync with the beat. "It's working," Patil exclaimed. "The sensory overload is disrupting their hive mind communication." Chen leaned forward, her knuckles white, as she gripped the command console. "Don't celebrate yet. This is just round one." As if on cue, the swarm began to adapt. Tendrils lashed out, attempting to coral the confetti and party favors. For a moment, it seemed as though they might regain control. Then, with a flash of light that momentarily blinded the sensors, the robotic party favors transformed. What were once innocent noisemakers and bubble blowers now combined into a swarm of their own. A cloud of miniature, glitter-spewing robots that began to perform a complex, three-dimensional conga line through space. The Void Swarm's confusion was almost palpable. Tendrils reached out, retracted, and tied themselves in knots as the hive mind tried to process this new development. "Ha!" Jackson exclaimed. "Bet they didn't see that coming." Chen allowed herself a small smile. One down. About 1 billion more to go. Over the next few hours, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Each encounter between the Void Swarm and a new flag defense yielded results more bizarre than the last. In the Cygnus Arm, the swarm encountered a planetary system where all the worlds had been transformed into gigantic versions of Earth board games. The swarm spent 3 days trapped in a cosmic game of snakes and ladders, sliding back to the beginning each time it nearly reached the flag. The Sagittarius dwarf galaxy reported success with their Schrödinger's discotheque, a quantum nightclub that existed in a superposition of party and no party. Every time the swarm thought it had located the flag, the probability waveform would collapse, and they'd have to start their search anew. But it wasn't all successes. Reports trickled in of swarm tendrils breaking through some of the more conventional defenses. The giant space pinata, while initially effective, had been fully consumed, along with 3 nearby star systems. "We need to stay ahead of their adaptation curve," Chen mused, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Paddle, Jackson, I want you to coordinate with the Council. Tell them to ramp up the absurdity. If they think an idea is too ridiculous, that means it's just ridiculous enough." As her officers hurried to comply, Chen turned her attention back to the galactic display. The Void Swarm's advance had slowed significantly, but it was still moving. They needed something bigger, something so outrageously unexpected that it would shake the very foundations of the swarm's collective consciousness. Admiral." Patel's voice broke through her thoughts. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Well, you need to see this for yourself." Chen moved to Patel's console, her curiosity piqued. As she read the transmission, her eyes widened, and a slow, disbelieving smile spread across her face. "Are they serious?" she asked, her voice a mixture of awe and amusement. Patel nodded, his expression mirroring hers. "Apparently so. They're calling it Operation Deus Ex Machina." Chen threw her head back and laughed, a full-bellied sound that echoed across the bridge. "Oh, those beautiful maniacs. They've done it. They've actually done it." Jackson looked between them, confused. "Done what, Admiral?" Chen's eyes twinkled with a manic glee. "Major, let's just say that if the Void Swarm thought things were chaotic before, they haven't seen anything yet. Humanity is about to unleash its secret weapon." She turned to address the entire bridge crew, her voice ringing with determination, and more than a little madness. "Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. We're about to introduce the Void Swarm to the most powerful force of chaos in the known universe." She paused for dramatic effect, savoring the moment. "We're going to unleash the power of the Internet." As the bridge erupted into a mixture of cheers, gasps, and confused alien inquiries, Chen couldn't help but smile. The galaxy had asked for humanity's help, and by God, they were going to give it everything they had. Memes, cat videos, conspiracy theories, and all. The Void Swarm thought it knew chaos. It was about to learn the true meaning of the word, courtesy of Earth's digital realm. As Chen gave the order to prepare for Operation Deus Ex Machina, she couldn't shake the feeling that the universe would never be the same again. And somewhere in the vast, indifferent cosmos, the Void Swarm shuddered, unaware of the mimetic onslaught that was about to be unleashed upon it. Method in the madness. The Galactic Council Chamber, once a bastion of order and decorum, now resembled the aftermath of a cosmic frat party. Holographic memes floated through the air. Alien delegates argued passionately about the strategic value of cat videos, and in one corner, a group of typically stoic Vulcanoid beings were attempting to master the art of the Harlem Shake. At the center of this maelstrom of madness stood Admiral Sarah Chen, her uniform immaculate, despite the chaos surrounding her. She surveyed the scene with a mixture of pride and bemusement. Status report. Dr. Patel, she called out, raising her voice to be heard over the cacophony. Dr. Amit Patel emerged from behind a holographic projection of Grumpy Cat, his hair even wilder than usual. It's working, Admiral. But also not working. But also, I don't know anymore. He threw his hands up in exasperation. Chen raised an eyebrow. Care to elaborate? Patel took a deep breath, centering himself. Right. So, Operation Deus Ex Machina, the unleashing of Earth's internet culture on the Void Swarm, has had some unexpected effects. He pulled up a series of charts and diagrams on his tablet. On one hand, the sheer volume and variety of content we're bombarding them with is causing unprecedented levels of confusion within the swarm. They're struggling to adapt to the rapid-fire changes in tone, content, and medium. That sounds like a win, Chen noted. Yes, but, Patel hesitated. We're also seeing signs of engagement. Chen's brow furrowed. Engagement? What do you mean? Before Patel could answer, Major Jamal Jackson strode up, his usually stoic face betraying a hint of concern. Admiral, you need to see this. He led Chen and Patel to a large view screen dominating one wall of the chamber. The screen flickered to life, showing a sector of space near the Carina Nebula. The Void Swarm was visible, its dark tendrils twisting and turning in space. But something was different. Are those meme faces? Chen asked incredulously. Indeed, sections of the swarm had rearranged themselves into crude approximations of various internet memes. A Doge face here, a surprised Pikachu there. And was that loss rendered in cosmic horror? Patel nodded grimly. It gets worse, or better. I'm not sure anymore. Play the audio, Major. Jackson tapped a control, and suddenly the chamber was filled with a cacophony of sounds. Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" blared out, interspersed with the Wilhelm scream. And was that the sound of dial-up internet? Chen stared at the screen, her mind racing. They're mimicking us. Not just mimicking, Patel explained. They're engaging, responding. It's like they've discovered a new form of communication and are trying to use it to interact with us. A nearby alien delegate, a being of pure light and energy, pulsed in agitation. But this is madness. How can we hope to defeat an enemy that adopts our very weapons of chaos? Chen's eyes narrowed as she studied the screen. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. No, this is exactly what we wanted. All eyes in the chamber turned to her. Don't you see? Chen continued, her voice rising with excitement. We're not just confusing them anymore. We're changing them. Patel, bring up the long-range scans of the swarm's advance. Patel complied, and a new image appeared on the screen. It showed the swarm's progress across the galaxy over the past few weeks. What had once been a steady, inexorable advance was now a chaotic zigzag. In some places, the swarm had even retreated. They're not just adapting to our chaos, Chen explained. They're internalizing it, becoming chaotic themselves. And a chaotic swarm is a swarm that can't maintain its single-minded focus on consumption. Jackson finished, realization dawning on his face. Chen nodded. Exactly. We're not just defending against the swarm. We're fundamentally changing its nature. A murmur of excitement rippled through the assembled delegates, but not everyone was convinced. From the back of the chamber, a gravelly voice spoke up. A pretty theory, Admiral. But how can we be sure this change is permanent? What's to stop the swarm from eventually adapting and becoming an even greater threat? The crowd parted to reveal Zixnath, the High Counselor, its energy form pulsing with skepticism. Chen met the High Counselor's gaze steadily. You're right to be cautious, High Counselor. But consider this. What is the Void Swarm at its core? A hive mind bent on consuming all in its path, Zixnath replied. Exactly, Chen said. A single consciousness. But what happens to a single consciousness when it's exposed to the vast, contradictory, ever-changing landscape of ideas that is human internet culture. She gestured to the screen, where the swarm continued its meme-filled antics. It fragments, diversifies, develops competing ideas and interests. In essence, it ceases to be a swarm and becomes a culture. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Patel's eyes widened. Of course, it's not just random chaos. There's a method to our madness. We're not just confusing the swarm. We're giving it an identity crisis. Chen nodded, warming to the theme. Think about it. We humans have been exposed to this digital chaos for decades, and look at us. We argue about pointless things, create and discard ideas at lightning speed, and somehow still manage to function as a society. More than that, we thrive on this chaos. It drives our creativity, our innovation. She turned to address the entire chamber. What we're doing isn't just a temporary defense. It's a fundamental transformation of our enemy. We're turning the Void Swarm from a galactic threat into a galactic civilization. The chamber erupted into excited chatter. Delegates debated furiously, some skeptical, others enthusiastic. But there was an undeniable current of hope running through the conversations. High Counselor Zixnath's energy form swirled thoughtfully. An audacious claim. Admiral. But the evidence does seem to support your theory. The question is, what do we do now? Chen's expression turned serious. Now comes the hard part. We need to guide this transformation. Help the swarm develop into something that can coexist with the rest of us in this galaxy. It won't be easy, and it certainly won't be quick. But I believe it's our best chance for lasting peace. She turned back to the view screen, where the swarm was now attempting to recreate a popular dance craze. We've shown them chaos. Now we need to show them order. Community. The full spectrum of what it means to be a civilization. Major Jackson stepped forward. Admiral, incoming transmission from Earth. It's Wikipedia. They're offering to upload their entire database directly into the swarm's network. A slow smile spread across Chen's face. Now that's what I call an information bomb. Tell them to proceed, Major. Let's give our new galactic neighbors the sum total of human knowledge, and all the pointless arguments that come with it. As the orders were relayed and the Galactic Council buzzed with renewed purpose, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had been asked to save the galaxy, and they had done it in the most human way possible, by sharing their weirdness with the universe. The Void Swarm was transforming, the galaxy was changing, and at the heart of it all was the chaotic, beautiful mess of human culture. As Chen watched the swarm attempt to process its first edit war over the definition of a sandwich, she knew that the adventure was only just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same again. And honestly, she couldn't wait to see what happened next. Checkmate in the cosmos. 6 months had passed since the implementation of Operation Deus Ex Machina, and the galaxy was a changed place. The Galactic Council chamber, once a bastion of serious deliberation, now buzzed with an energy that was part diplomatic summit, part internet cafe, and part intergalactic block party. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, her uniform adorned with an eclectic mix of pins and badges, gifts from various alien delegations, and oddly enough, from factions of the former Void Swarm itself. She watched as representatives from across the galaxy mingled, argued, and occasionally broke into spontaneous dance-offs. Quite a scene, isn't it, Admiral? Dr. Amit Patel remarked, sidling up next to her. His lab coat was covered in glitter, a souvenir from a recent encounter with the swarm's newly formed Fabulous Nebula faction. Chen nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. If you had told me a year ago that we'd be hosting a galactic mixer with our former mortal enemies, I'd have had you tested for space madness. Before Paddle could respond, a commotion near the main entrance caught their attention. The doors swung open, admitting a peculiar procession. Leading the group was a being that defied easy description. It seemed to shift and swirl, sometimes appearing as a mass of dark tendrils, other times taking on more defined, almost humanoid shapes. Is that? Patel began, his eyes wide. Yep, Chen confirmed. The avatar of the Void Swarm, or should I say, the representative of the Cosmic Culture Collective. They're really leaning into the alliteration these days. The avatar approached Chen and Patel, its form settling into a rough approximation of a human in a business suit, albeit one made of swirling darkness and twinkling stars. Admiral Chen, it said, its voice a strange harmony of whispers and digital tones. We come bearing gifts and grievances, memes and meaning, chaos, and more chaos. Chen struggled to keep a straight face. Welcome, representative. We're honored by your presence. I trust your journey was entertaining. The avatar's form rippled in what might have been a chuckle. Indeed. We passed through the Crab Nebula, which is now hosting an intergalactic battle rap competition. Most invigorating. As they spoke, Major Jamal Jackson approached, his usual stoic expression barely concealing his amusement. Admiral, you're going to want to see this. The Swarms, the Collective's latest project just went live. He handed Chen a tablet, which displayed a video feed from a distant sector of space. Chen's eyebrows shot up as she watched. Is that? Are they reorganizing an entire spiral arm into a giant cosmic fidget spinner? She asked incredulously. The avatar's form swelled with pride. Our magnum opus, a testament to the transformative power of human internet culture. We call it spinning in the free world. It's also a fully functional solar system generator. Patil leaned in, his scientific curiosity piqued. Fascinating. The rotational energy could indeed be harnessed to form new stars and planets. It's chaotic, yet productive. Chen shook her head in amazement. I suppose that's a step up from consuming planets. But surely you didn't come all this way just to show off your latest cosmic art project. The avatar's form shifted, taking on a more serious aspect. You are correct, Admiral. We come with a proposal. The Cosmic Culture Collective has been debating vigorously. It's quite refreshing, actually. We've discovered we have a particular fondness for online forums. Oh no, Patel muttered. What have we done? We have decided, the avatar continued, that our current form of existence, while vastly more interesting than our previous monomaniacal consumption, is still lacking. We wish to evolve further, to truly understand and participate in the galactic community. Chen's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you proposing? The avatar's form shimmered, and suddenly the chamber was filled with holographic displays showing various planets, star systems, and space stations. We wish to diversify, the avatar explained, to split our consciousness into billions of individual entities, each free to explore, learn, and contribute to the galaxy in their own unique way. Some of us wish to become energy beings, others want to try out physical forms. A rather vocal faction is quite keen on becoming sentient memes. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Chen exchanged glances with Patel and Jackson, seeing her own mix of hope and apprehension reflected in their eyes. That's a big step, Chen said carefully. What you're talking about is essentially the birth of countless new species. The logistical and ethical implications alone are staggering. The avatar nodded, its form flickering through a series of emojis. We are aware. That is why we come to you, to the Galactic Council. We seek your guidance, your support, and your dank memes as we undertake this transformation. High Counselor Sixnath floated forward, its energy form pulsing with a mix of emotions. This is unprecedented. The Void Swarm, once the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced, now wishes to join us as citizens. More than that, the Avatar replied. We wish to contribute. Our unique perspective, born from chaos and transformation, could bring new insights to science, art, philosophy. Imagine the advancements we could achieve together. Chen felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The decision they made here would shape the future of the galaxy for eons to come. She took a deep breath, then spoke. Representative of the Cosmic Culture Collective, on behalf of humanity, and if I may be so bold, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we accept your proposal. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of cheers, debates, and what sounded suspiciously like air horns. Chen raised her hand, calling for quiet. But, she continued, this transition must be carefully managed. We'll need to establish committees, draft new laws, create integration programs. It's going to be a long, complex process. The Avatar's form rippled with excitement. We anticipated as much. In fact, we've already begun drafting proposals. Would you like to see our 10,000-page manifesto on the socioeconomic implications of turning black holes into intergalactic Wi-Fi hotspots? Patel groaned. What have we wrought? Chen laughed, a full, hearty sound that echoed through the chamber. What we've wrought, Doctor, is a future none of us could have imagined. A galaxy where our greatest enemy has become our most unique ally. She turned to address the entire chamber, her voice ringing with authority and hope. My fellow sentients, today marks a new chapter in galactic history. We faced annihilation, and instead of succumbing to fear, we chose creativity, humor, and the wild, wonderful chaos of human culture. Chen gestured to the Avatar, who was now enthusiastically discussing meme theory with a group of bemused alien diplomats. Our new friends remind us that change is possible, that even in the darkest void, life and culture can flourish. As we move forward into this new era, let us remember the lesson we've learned. In the face of cosmic horror, sometimes the best defense is a good cat video. The chamber filled with laughter and applause. As Chen watched representatives from across the galaxy mingle with fragments of the former Void Swarm, she felt a sense of pride and wonder. Humanity had been called upon to save the galaxy, and they had done so in the most human way possible, by sharing their weirdness, their creativity, and their unrelenting spirit with the cosmos. The game of galactic survival had ended not in checkmate, but in a draw that promised a future brighter and stranger than anyone could have imagined. As Chen raised a toast to the new era, she couldn't help but smile. The universe would never be the same, and that was exactly how it should be. After all, in the grand cosmic game, the real victory wasn't in conquering the board, but in changing the rules altogether. And humanity, with its boundless capacity for chaos and creation, had done just that. The game was over. The real adventure was just beginning.